on a cold winter night in 2023, in a small apartment within a quiet residential complex on RuanZhi Street, DingJun returned home to a shocking discovery. His girlfriend, Yun Zhen, was dead in the bathtub. The soft white towel tightly wrapped around her neck was the only clue in this mysterious case. As the police began their investigation, they uncovered a web of secrets and complicated relationships that Yun Zhen had tried to hide. Who was behind her death? Was it someone close to her? Or was it the shadow of a dark past that Yun Zhen couldn't escape? Join us as we unravel this mysterious case, where each clue reveals new fragments of the puzzle, casting suspicion on those who seemed most innocent. A heartbreaking discovery in the bathroom. At around 11 p.m. on April 2nd, 2015, in an apartment in Beijing, China, DingJun, a 28-year-old man, had just returned from a short business trip in Liaoning province. He felt an immediate chill upon opening his apartment door. The silence was eerie. There wasn't a sound, not even the faintest noise. DingJun called out for his girlfriend, Yun Zhen, but no one answered. He stepped into the living room and saw everything was exactly as he had left it. However, as he walked into the bedroom, he noticed the bathroom door slightly ajar. With a dim light seeping out, he gently pushed the door open, and the scene before him left him stunned. Yun Zhen was lying motionless in the bathtub, her naked body limp, a deep mark around her neck. Her eyes were wide open, staring blankly into space as if frozen in her final moments. DingJun screamed in panic, his body trembling uncontrollably. He rushed to the living room to call the police, his voice choked with fear, gasping for breath. The dispatcher immediately recognized the severity of the situation and sent a team to the scene. The apartment was part of a modest residential block with about 10 units. Yun Zhen's bathroom was spacious, with modern fixtures and white marble-tiled walls. When the police arrived, they noticed steam still clinging to the mirror and walls. Water droplets splattered the floor and walls near the bathtub, but there were no signs of a slip or footprints. Both the bathroom door and the apartment door were intact, with no indication of forced entry. Yun Zhen, a beautiful and captivating 25-year-old woman, was found curled up in the bathtub, her body submerged in cold, slightly murky water. A soft white towel was wrapped tightly around her neck, leaving a dark bruise from her chin to her ears. The bruising faded towards the back of her neck. Her pale face was tilted slightly forward, revealing faint scratches. A few dry drops of blood clung to the corner of her mouth, indicating she had died just moments before DingJun's discovery. The autopsy confirmed that Yun Zhen had been strangled from behind with a soft object, the very towel around her neck. Her time of death was estimated between 7 and 9 p.m. on April 2nd. The injuries suggested she had been attacked while sitting or leaning forward. There were no signs of sexual assault. Her genital area showed no tears or bruising, and no semen or traces of sexual activity were found. A complex past behind a seemingly perfect life. Yun Zhen, a beautiful, intelligent, and skillful woman, began her career as a humble employee at a small spa. Through hard work and talent, she quickly built a strong reputation in the beauty care industry. However, behind her successful image and seemingly perfect life, her personal life was riddled with hidden complexities and persistent, unflattering rumors. Yun Zhen was known to have a complicated past and ambiguous relationships with several men. At the spa where she worked, rumors circulated that she led a reckless lifestyle, frequently associating with wealthy businessmen. According to these whispers, these relationships supported her luxurious lifestyle and contributed to her career success. However, when DingJun entered her life, everything seemed to change. DingJun, a kind, mature, and affectionate man, quickly fell in love with Yun Zhen and shielded her from the shadows of her past, regardless of the rumors surrounding her. Despite DingJun's love and protection. Yun Zhen chose to continue working at the spa. She believed that financial independence and career success were essential in affirming her self-worth and overcoming the burdens of her past. Clues from the crime scene and the first suspect. As the police began analyzing the crime scene, they found no signs of forced entry into Yun Zhen's apartment, eliminating the possibility of a random murder or burglary. The apartment's front door was intact, with no evidence of tampering, and the spare key remained in the security box outside. This suggested that the perpetrator was likely someone familiar with Yun Zhen who had access to the apartment without needing to break in. One significant detail was the victim's position at the time of death. Yun Zhen was found in the bathtub, naked, with a towel tightly wrapped around her neck. This indicated she was likely attacked suddenly and didn't have the chance to fight back. The police inferred that the killer took advantage of Yun Zhen's vulnerability while she was bathing, executing a swift and efficient attack without leaving signs of struggle. The towel used as a weapon became a critical clue, though soft. It could leave deep marks if used with sufficient force. The bruises around Yun Zhen's neck indicated that considerable strength had been applied to ensure she couldn't escape. The police continued their investigation, questioning the apartment owner and neighbors for additional information. However, they discovered that the residential complex lacked surveillance cameras, posing a major obstacle. No witnesses reported hearing or seeing anything suspicious during the time of the incident. Because DingJun was the first to discover the body and call the police, he quickly became the primary suspect. In similar cases, the person who finds the body, particularly if they are a close relation or partner, is often scrutinized based on witness statements from neighbors. The police learned that DingJun and Yun Zhen had a heated argument about a week prior. The argument occurred near the building's entrance, with several people overhearing their shouting. While no one knew the full story, the tension in their relationship was palpable. A neighbor close to the couple's apartment confirmed seeing DingJun leave the scene of the argument visibly angry, while Yun Zhen stood there looking upset. However, when asked about the events inside the apartment, no neighbors could provide any additional details. All confirmed they hadn't heard any unusual sounds from Yun Zhen's apartment in the days leading up to the incident. The argument they witnessed occurred before DingJun left for his business trip, and since then, nothing noteworthy had been observed. On April 3rd, the police interrogated DingJun, an office worker with a stable income and a successful career. Colleagues described him as kind, sociable, and honest. During questioning, DingJun admitted that their relationship had been strained recently due to frequent arguments about work and personal life. A key source of conflict was Yun Zhen's decision to keep working at the spa, which made DingJun uneasy, especially with the persistent rumors about her past. Despite this, DingJun insisted he loved and cared for Yun Zhen and never intended to harm her. Upon checking his visa, flight tickets, and other documents, the police confirmed that DingJun had left the city on March 28th for a business trip to Liaoning province and only returned on the evening he discovered Yun Zhen's body. He cooperated fully during the interrogation, showing no signs of deception. His emotional state appeared genuine, and the police found no clear motive to suspect him of the crime. The relationships surrounding the victim's spa. After confirming DingJun's alibi and ruling him out as the perpetrator, the police continued their investigation for additional leads. They asked DingJun if he could think of anyone Yun Zhen knew who might commit such an act. DingJun hesitated before admitting he couldn't think of anyone who would want to harm her, though it could potentially be someone she knew. He explained that Yun Zhen was private about her personal life and rarely shared details about relationships outside of work. However, he was aware that she maintained contact with a few old friends and some spa clients. The police also explored who might have had access to Yun Zhen's apartment keys. DingJun stated that aside from himself, Yun Zhen hadn't given keys to anyone else. There were only 2 keys, one for him and one for her. He clarified that when he traveled for work, his key was always with him, and he never lent it to anyone. When asked if someone might have entered the apartment without force, such as someone Yun Zhen trusted or invited in, DingJun reiterated that it could be someone she knew but wasn't certain how close she was to them. Given the strain in Yun Zhen and DingJun's relationship, particularly due to her job at the spa, the police decided to focus their investigation on the spa itself. Yun Zhen's past appeared to harbor secrets, and the rumors of her complex relationships raised further suspicion. Similar crimes had occurred in the area, where some spas were suspected of covertly engaging in prostitution under the guise of legitimate services. This gave the police more reason to scrutinize the spa where Yun Zhen worked. The spa, located in a modest but well-known beauty district, appeared professional, clean, and compliant with industry standards. Its services primarily focused on skincare, relaxing massages, and beauty treatments. Initially, everything seemed above board. However, police had heard rumors that many spas in the area served as fronts for illicit activities, exploiting the privacy inherent in the beauty industry to conduct illegal transactions. Upon closer inspection, the police found that Yun Zhen Spa was indeed a legitimate business. Its registration documents, operating licenses, and financial records were transparent, with no signs of illegal activity. The staff, from management to employees, were cooperative and forthcoming. Security camera footage from the spa showed regular operations with no suspicious activities during Yun Zhen's shifts. Despite the spa's legitimacy, during their investigation, police discovered that some former clients admitted to arranging private meetings with employees after hours. Although the spa didn't officially offer illegal services, some clients, primarily wealthy businessmen and individuals with social status, arranged private deals outside of the spa's oversight. These transactions were entirely consensual and unmonitored by the spa's management. One noteworthy relationship the police uncovered was Yun Zhen's close friendship with a colleague named Jin Tian. Jin Tian was one of the few people Yun Zhen trusted enough to share intimate details of her life. When questioned, Jin Tian revealed a shocking secret about Yun Zhen's past, a dark truth that she had been trying to keep hidden for years. The shadows of the past and the victim's trauma. According to Jin Tian's testimony, she and Yun Zhen had been close friends for many years, more like sisters than colleagues. About 8 months ago, Jin Tian recalled, Yun Zhen came to her in an extremely distressed state. After a late shift, they sat down to talk, and Yun Zhen broke down, revealing a secret she had hidden her entire life. Yun Zhen shared that her childhood had been marked by trauma. After her mother died of illness, she lived with her father and younger brother, Su Ping. Not long after, her father began sexually abusing her. Initially, she didn't understand what was happening, but as she grew older, the horror of her experiences became painfully clear. This trauma left deep emotional wounds, making her live in constant fear, shame, and self-doubt. With her mother gone, Yun Zhen was left to depend on her father, the very person who betrayed her. She never shared this story with anyone, not even close family or friends. The pain of being abused by a parent left her isolated and filled with resentment. These haunting memories followed her into adulthood, and no matter how hard she tried to move forward, she could never fully escape the shadows of her past. Jin Tian told the police that Yun Zhen begged her to keep this secret, particularly from her brother, Su Ping. Yun Zhen took on the role of Su Ping's protector after their mother died. She feared that revealing the truth would shatter his image of their father and cause him immense pain. Her protective instinct made her carry this burden alone. Although Jin Tian wanted to help, she respected the weight of Yun Zhen's secret. During their time working together, Jin Tian saw Yun Zhen trying to rebuild her life and relationships, but the deep scars continued to affect her interactions, especially romantic ones. Even when Yun Zhen sought love and safety with DingJun, memories of her father's abuse haunted her. She lived in constant fear, never feeling truly secure, even with the man she loved most. Jean Tian also revealed a shocking detail that gave the investigation a new direction. Yun Zhen had told her that her father, Lei Yong, had moved to a neighborhood near her apartment. He claimed he wanted to be closer to his children, especially with Su Ping preparing to study abroad. However, Yun Zhen was deeply unsettled by his presence. His visits filled her with dread, making her feel trapped by the past she desperately wanted to escape. Yun Zhen admitted that there was a time when Mr. Lei Yong came to visit without warning, and in a moment when no one was around, he took advantage of the situation and abused her right at the apartment. This happened while DingJun was away on a business trip, leaving her without support, though she tried to resist. But the overwhelming fear from her past trapped her in a cycle of terror and despair. What made the situation even more complicated was that, immediately after the incident, Yun Zhen's younger brother, Su Ping, unexpectedly visited her. Yun Zhen wasn't sure if her brother noticed anything unusual, but she felt he might have sensed that something was wrong. He saw their father in the apartment but said nothing, simply sitting silently in the living room. His gaze that day was different, no longer carefree and innocent. The father's interrogation and a new lead from DNA evidence. During the initial interrogation on April 4th, Lei Yong appeared calm and firmly denied all accusations related to Yun Zhen's death, as well as claims that he had ever abused his daughter in the past. However, his composed demeanor only heightened police suspicion, prompting them to dig deeper into his background and the family dynamics. When questioned further about his relationship with Yun Zhen, Lei Yong maintained his denial and insisted that he had always tried to fulfill his duties as a father. He explained that after the death of his children's mother, he did his best to care for them, particularly Yun Zhen, while her younger brother, Su Ping, prepared to study abroad. Lei Yong stressed that his relationship with Yun Zhen was normal, with no tension, and that he had never intended to harm her or had any involvement in her death. However, when asked to provide an alibi for the night of the murder, Lei Yong failed to produce a solid one. He admitted to being alone in his rented apartment at the time, with no witnesses or corroborating evidence to verify his whereabouts. This inconsistency deepened the investigators' doubts about his claims. Meanwhile, forensic experts discovered a tiny blood stain within the dry fibers of the towel used as the murder weapon, though the stain was barely visible to the naked eye. Advanced testing techniques identified it as a critical clue for identifying the killer. The police requested DNA samples from both Lei Yong and DingJun to compare against the bloodstain. DingJun's DNA did not match the sample on the towel, narrowing the focus to Lei Yong. However, when Lei Yong's DNA results came back, the case took a surprising twist. His DNA was a near-perfect match to the bloodstain, but with slight variations. Forensic experts concluded that the DNA on the towel didn't belong to Lei Yong, but to someone closely related to him by blood. This revelation raised a critical question. If Lei Yong wasn't the source of the DNA, who was? This new lead shifted the investigation's focus to another family member. Suspicion soon fell on Yun Zhen's younger brother, Su Ping, who had recently left for his studies abroad. The police began scrutinizing the relationship between Yun Zhen and Su Ping, as well as broader family dynamics, to unravel the hidden truths behind this complex and tragic case. Conflicting testimonies, the killer revealed. According to Lei Yong's testimony, his son, Su Ping, had left Beijing to study abroad on March 30th and was not in the city at the time of the murder. However, when the police thoroughly investigated Su Ping's travel records and flight information, they uncovered a startling inconsistency. Su Ping's actual departure date was not before the incident, but the day after it. This shocking discovery raised many questions. Why did Su Ping and his father provide false information? Was Lei Yong truly unaware of the real timeline? Or was he protecting his son, Realizing this discrepancy, the police immediately took action to locate Su Ping abroad, working with international law enforcement agencies. They tracked him down to a student dormitory in Australia. On April 5th, a team of investigators was dispatched to question him, aiming to clarify why he left China after Yun Zhen's death rather than before. As he had claimed, when confronted, Su Ping's demeanor was tense and nervous. Despite his efforts to hide his anxiety, his unease only fueled the investigators' suspicions. During the interrogation, they noticed a large bruise on his hand that resembled a bite mark, a detail that caught their immediate attention, given its relevance in cases involving physical struggle. When asked about the bruise, Su Ping offered a vague explanation, claiming it was a minor accident where he bit his own hand out of stress. The investigators, however, were unconvinced. Their experience suggested that such a mark was more likely the result of a struggle or resistance, possibly from a victim defending themselves before being strangled. This theory aligned with their initial suspicion that Yun Zhen had been attacked from behind and may have bitten her assailant in an attempt to fight back. Previously, forensic DNA analysis had shown that the tiny blood sample on the towel did not belong to Lei Yong, but to someone closely related to him. With the discovery of the bite mark on Su Ping's hand, the investigators hypothesized that he was the killer. They promptly collected a DNA sample from Su Ping to compare with the blood on the towel. When the results came back, Su Ping's DNA was an exact match to the blood on the towel. Faced with irrefutable evidence, on April 6th, Su Ping confessed to his involvement in the crime, unable to deny his connection any longer. The revelation of Su Ping as the killer brought a tragic conclusion to the investigation, exposing a web of familial betrayal and long-buried secrets. Family tragedy and the twisted thoughts of a brother. Su Ping confessed to killing his sister, Yun Zhen, driven by a complex and dark rationale. He could no longer endure the anguish and torment stemming from their traumatic past, especially after discovering that their father, Lei Yong, continued to maintain contact and manipulate Yun Zhen, his beloved sister who had silently suffered unspeakable horrors. Even as a child, Su Ping sensed that something was wrong, though he couldn't fully comprehend it at the time. Every moment his father was alone with Yun Zhen filled him with unease and dread. He was too young to understand or intervene, but the anxiety remained. As he grew older, he had many heartfelt conversations with Yun Zhen. In her silence, her anxious eyes, and her avoidance of any topic related to their father, Su Ping discerned that she was grappling with something terrible, a pain beyond imagination. Eventually, Su Ping discovered the horrifying truth. Their father had been abusing Yun Zhen for years. Disgusted and horrified by his father's actions, Su Ping was paralyzed by his inability to confront the man who was both his father and a predator. This helplessness bred a growing sense of anger and frustration within him. The traumatic memories from his childhood became an ever-present shadow in Su Ping's mind. Each recollection of his sisters suffering under their father's abuse fueled an uncontrollable rage. But the most devastating blow came when he realized that Yun Zhen still maintained contact with their father, despite living with her boyfriend. To Su Ping, this felt like a betrayal. He couldn't understand how she remained tethered to the very source of her suffering. It infuriated him that even after escaping her dark past, she allowed their father to continue exerting control over her body and mind. When Su Ping unexpectedly visited Yun Zhen and witnessed the horrifying scene of their father in her apartment, once again violating her, it was like a knife to his heart. The trauma and rage that had accumulated since childhood exploded in that moment. From then on, twisted and irrational thoughts took root in his mind. In moments of clarity, he wanted to save his sister from their father's cruelty. But in moments of madness, those distorted thoughts led him down a path he couldn't control. The idea of killing his sister became a deranged solution to end her suffering. In his delusion, Su Ping believed that by ending Yun Zhen's life, He was liberating her from the relentless torment of their father. He thought death was the only escape and that by killing her, he would be sent to prison, while the true tormentor, their father, would be left to suffer the guilt and anguish for the rest of his life. For Su Ping, Yun Zhen's death was not just an act of twisted mercy, but also a form of vengeance against their father. He believed that the ultimate punishment for Lei Yong was to live haunted by the guilt of destroying his children's lives. In his mind, this tragic and violent act was the only way to achieve a distorted form of justice, a way to end the cycle of pain and exact retribution on the man who had ruined their lives. A carefully calculated murder plan. Although Su Ping had resolved to go to prison after killing his sister, he meticulously planned his crime to avoid immediate suspicion. He not only prepared thoroughly, but timed everything precisely to escape the scene unnoticed. Beforehand, he told Lei Yong that he would leave for his studies abroad on the morning of April 2nd, leading his father to believe he'd already departed and therefore couldn't be involved in Yun Zhen's death. On the night of April 2nd, Su Ping quietly went to his sister's apartment with the intent to execute his long-conceived plan. Because he and Yun Zhen maintained regular contact, his visit raised no suspicion. He informed Yun Zhen that he was about to leave for his studies and wanted to see her one last time. Trusting her younger brother completely, Yun Zhen welcomed him without hesitation. Su Ping knew that Yun Zhen's boyfriend, DingJun, was away on a business trip and wouldn't return until late that night, giving him the perfect window to carry out his plan. Upon arriving, Su Ping assessed the situation and asked to stay overnight, claiming he wanted to have a heartfelt conversation before leaving for his studies. He acted caring and affectionate, putting Yun Zhen at ease. No one could have suspected that beneath his calm exterior was a mind consumed by turmoil and murderous intent. Yun Zhen allowed him to stay, and he feigned exhaustion, settling on the living room couch to wait for the right moment. The crucial moment arrived when Yun Zhen went to take a shower. Su Ping quietly positioned himself outside the bathroom door, his mind racing through the next steps of his plan, when he heard the sound of the shower running, signaling that his sister was vulnerable and unaware. He slipped into the bathroom silently. Yun Zhen, her back to the door, had no inkling of danger. She had no reason to fear her own brother. To her, Su Ping was still the same trustworthy younger sibling, and his presence was perfectly normal. But this blind trust would be her fatal mistake. As he closed the distance with eyes filled with obsession and madness, Su Ping lunged forward, covering her mouth to prevent any screams. Yun Zhen reacted immediately, panic-stricken, and struggled to break free. He used one hand to stifle her cries and the other to restrain her arm, despite her physical weakness compared to his strength. In a desperate bid to survive, she bit down hard on his hand. The sudden pain made him falter, his grip slipping momentarily. Seizing the chance, Yun Zhen bit anywhere she could reach, leaving deep teeth marks that drew blood. Rather than stopping him, the pain fueled Su Ping's fury. He grabbed a towel hanging nearby and swiftly wrapped it around her neck, pulling it tight. The bite wounds and blood did nothing to diminish his cold resolve. Yun Zhen's frantic attempts to pry the towel away weakened as her strength faded. Her gasping breaths grew fainter until only the silence of the bathroom remained. She collapsed, eyes wide with terror, realizing her own brother was taking her life. Su Ping tightened the towel until her body went completely limp. He stood over her lifeless form, his mind swirling with confusion, somewhere between twisted relief and deep hatred. In his warped logic, he believed he had freed her from suffering, but in reality, he had become a cold-blooded murderer, the one who extinguished the life of his beloved sister. Unbeknownst to him, a small drop of his blood had stained the towel during their struggle, a result of Yun Zhen's desperate biting. Su Ping hastily fled the scene, and the following day, he boarded his flight out of the country, confident that his plan had worked. However, That tiny drop of blood would ultimately unravel his carefully calculated plan and expose him as the killer. The trial and the irredeemable tragedy of a family. At the trial held on April 12th, both Su Ping and Lei Yong were forced to confront the horrifying crimes they had kept hidden for so long. In the somber atmosphere of the courtroom, all eyes were on Su Ping, the young man who had confessed to the murder of his sister, Yun Zhen, before delivering the verdict. The judge emphasized that while Su Ping's actions were driven by complex psychological trauma, killing his sister to free her from suffering was a violation of the law and a fundamentally inhumane act. No one has the right to take another's life, regardless of the reasoning behind it. In the end, Su Ping was sentenced to death, despite his psychological disorder and the wounds of his past that led to his distorted actions. The law could not excuse such a crime. As for Lei Yong, he was convicted of domestic sexual abuse, crimes that had been carried out silently for years and were the root cause of the family's collapse. He had not only manipulated Yun Zhen emotionally, but had also inflicted deep psychological damage on Su Ping. While he did not directly commit the murder of his daughter, his prolonged abuse and violence pushed his family into a spiral of despair and tragedy. Lei Yong was sentenced to 15 years in prison, closing a dark chapter in this family's history. The case left a deep scar on society, not just for its brutality, but for the hidden family secrets that had festered for years. This was a story of familial tragedy and haunting pasts, where unresolved trauma culminated in a horrific ending for everyone involved. What made this case particularly heartbreaking was Su Ping's torment and despair. He was a brother who once loved his sister dearly, but chose a path of death as a twisted form of liberation, an act that was ultimately unforgivable. Underneath it all was the sinister influence of Lei Yong, a father whose manipulation and abuse destroyed his children's lives and indirectly led Su Ping down a path of crime. Yun Zhen's silent suffering, her paralyzing fear of her father, and Su Ping's helplessness in protecting her transformed into an irreparable tragedy. This case serves as a poignant reminder of the importance of recognizing and protecting victims of domestic violence and the catastrophic consequences of unresolved psychological wounds. What are your thoughts on today's case? Share your opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Decoder Box so you won't miss more gripping cases from around the world. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.